Hey friends, Liz here to invite you to check out our Patreon. That's where we publish extra episodes every other week, and that's also where we will continue any series we're reading. So if you liked our coverage of ACOTAR, Guild, High Mountain Court, or Fourth Wing, check out our Patreon to continue those series along with us. We also let you know what we're reading each month in advance in case you want to read along with us too. There might be a few other surprises throughout the year for our patrons as well. You can get all of this for just $3 a month, so check it out and we would really appreciate the support. Anyway, on to today's episode.
Welcome to Your Safe Space, the podcast your partner, friends, parents, whoever thinks is dirty. Don't have time to read books? Want to understand the jokes and the TikToks? We got you, fam. We're the Spice Traders, and we deal in spicy books. I'm Katie, and I need it to make sense.
I'm Liz, and I'm hypercritical. As always, we start every episode with 3 things. The first is a generic trigger warning. You can find specific triggers for this book in our show notes, so please check those out. Also, we do use foul language and talk a lot about sex. If you have sensitivity to any of this, please give this episode a skip.
Secondly, we talk about books. The whole book, nothing but the book, so help me goddess. If you plan to read this book and don't want something spoiled right now, don't listen to this episode.
Lastly, we acknowledge that a good book can hit you at the wrong time. The views expressed in our discussion are our opinion, and we absolutely don't want to diminish the work and the talent of the authors in our community. That said, we have some notes.
So yeah, girl, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about The Sea Witch by Rebecca F Kenney. This was published in 2022, and it is a standalone book, but it's in a larger Disney villains universe. It does cover the classic villains. It's called Beloved Villains series, which currently has 5 books. I don't know if she's going to write more. It seems like she has a lot of retellings. I was looking at her website, and she has like a Portrait of Dorian Gray retelling.
Ooh.
And she does a Great Gatsby with vampires.
Oh, sign me up.
For real. So, I mean, at 2026, we're definitely going to get some more Rebecca F. Kennedy. I want to say Kennedy so bad. Rebecca F. Kenney books. So, anyway, it is a standalone, which is such a relief. But there's other similar books. This book is 431 pages long, and that's a longie for us. But I do have to say, it's really hard to put down.
Yeah, it's really hard to put down. This book was such a surprise delight for me. Like, I was not expecting it to be this good.
No, it's like, spoilers now, this book is so much better than it looks if you're someone who judges covers, which I am. So that brings me to this cover. The cover's not good. The cover does this book such a disservice, I think.
Well, we should be clear because there's 2 covers. So let's talk about the one with the dude on it first, because the other one's cute.
I haven't seen the other one.
The other one's cute. And it's the hardcover one. So I think I'm going to buy this book in the hardcover because it is very cute.
I want this book. Okay, I'll look up the hardcover. So the cover I have on the Kindle and the paperback is a dude with octopus legs. And I mean, this is a Little Mermaid retelling where Ursula is a hot dude. So it's a dude who is Ursula. But he's a cartoon dude, but it like gets pretty close to that. It's that like it looks like someone took a photograph and then stylized it. So it's like too close to that real person for me. He's fucking jacked, which is fine. He's got his like wispy hair. He's got tribal tattoos for some reason, which I ignore those.
Yep.
He's got the like golden shell thing a la Ursula in her human form, and there's seaweed. It's just really cartoony and campy, and he's got this like sultry face, and I don't like it. It's also not really how I picture him. It's how he's described, but it's not how I picture him.
Well, so I honestly, like, I wouldn't have that big of a problem with this cover, except his face is derpy. Like, he looks like...
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think there's a Muppet with just like a tapir style like nose. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
yes,
that he looks like he's got like a proboscis like that. And then he's just got this like Gonzo. That's the one I'm thinking about. He looks like he's got a Gonzo nose. He does look like Gonzo. And I'm not trying to be mean, but then he's just got like this derpy mouth. And I'm like, if you were going to stylize it, why did you do that?
Yeah, because I think that's the thing. And his face is derpy. It also looks really young to me, like a 17-year-old. Like it looks like a boy, and not a man, which sounds so stupid. But his face just doesn't do it for me. And I have seen real people on covers that are attractive people. And like, I almost wish you just gave me the abs and the tentacles. Like, cut his face off.
Yeah. The abs and the tentacles would have been just fine.
Yeah.
But so, the other book,
I'm not a fan. What's the
hardcover is like just the title, and then it's got like all of this like undersea, like I want to say clip art, but it doesn't look like campy like that. It's just like kind of patterned and stylized like seashells and like coral, and there's like octopus tentacles sometimes, and like two mermaids on the bottom. Like it's super cute. And then there's like these little mugs on either side, which represent hot chocolate, which will become a thing in the book. But like it's just pretty, and you can't tell that it's got filthy tentacle smut in it.
Yeah. Oh, it is pretty, and I like the purple stingrays, the mermaids. Oh, I like that. There's the horse on the back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cute. Oh, I want it too. I like it.
Yeah. So I like, you don't have to get the one with the dude on it, and I refuse to do that.
I will not get the one with the dude on it, but I would like this book because I'm gonna return to it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, plus I don't know. Maybe this is not a high bar for me, but I don't know. I feel like I have some standards, but there are I don't buy all of the books in a physical copy that we cover. And so I feel like the fact that I want this one in a hardcover is high praise.
Yeah. Speaks volumes. Like, I would be proud to have this on my shelf because it's so good.
Yeah. Also, spoilers, I guess, for our ratings.
I mean, yeah. Sorry, guys.
I'm not mad about it.
Oh, okay. It looks like all of hers have this like prettier, because I was looking at all the covers, and they are cartoony people, but it looks like she has this kind of design motif as the alternates, which is really nice.
Yeah, that is nice, because I don't really want books with people on them in my library.
No, I don't either. But all of that to say, the cover is not the best, and I think it does a disservice for the insides. Also, this is one where this title, The Sea Witch, is the title of a great many books.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for it, check the author.
Check the author, because we almost read, at least I almost started reading the Katie Robert Sea Witch, which also would have been good, but wildly different stories. Yeah. So
yes,
just keep that in mind.
Wildly different stories. Exactly. And there's a couple others, like, it just seemed, I mean, a lot of people, I think, like The Little Mermaid and want to write about sea witches. So
yeah, I mean, I get it.
Like, I'm not mad about it. So anyway, I really would love to get into this. So let's get into it. Katie, kick us off.
Let's do it. This is on Kindle Unlimited, which is great news for a lot of us. We get a couple of things before we get into the book, but just before that, just a disclaimer, this is going to be split into two parts for us. So this will cover part 1, which is chapters 1 through 28. And then we'll cover the rest of the book and our ratings in part 2. So before we get into the book, we get a playlist. And this playlist was interesting for 2 reasons. One, I wasn't familiar with a single fucking song, and most of the artists I didn't know either. But like, obviously there's remakes of the songs from like the Disney movie, but I hadn't heard those renditions before. So that was interesting. I didn't listen to it, so I can't offer an opinion on if it's a good playlist or not, but the link to Spotify works. So thank you for keeping your link updated.
I did. Yes, thank you for keeping the link updated. I also thought it was interesting because I liked seeing the renditions of the, obviously the Little Mermaid OG songs, but Jesus Christ, once more with feeling. I liked seeing those Little Mermaid Disney songs included. I also haven't heard those renditions, but it looks like she also included I Won't Say I'm in Love, which is from Hercules. But that song is really fitting for this story. And I want to listen to that rendition.
Yeah, I didn't clock that. I mean, like, that song is so perfect for this story. And it's one of my favorite songs from Hercules. So let me know if it's good.
It's so good. I will. I'm going to listen to it and I'll let you know. But I love a working link, even if your playlist sucks, but your link works. And that is high praise in my book. Or
look,
high
that's
points
attention to
book.
detail. I appreciate it.
And like, you care about your digital readers. Thank you.
Yes. So the other thing that we get is a trigger list, and that is included in our show notes. So please take a look at that, because this does have some unique aspects to it. We don't get a map or anything. You don't need it. Don't worry about it. Just come along for the ride. I promise you'll have a good time.
Join us. Join us under the sea.
So we jump in and we begin with the Sea Witch. And here, like we mentioned at the top, this is a gender-bended version of Ursula. So he's male, obviously. And it's worth noting here that this book is told from two first-person limited points of view, the Sea Witch and the Little Mermaid, who in this book is called Avril. It's Averil, but I just ended up calling her Avril in my head, like Avril Lavigne.
Yeah, me too. I couldn't get the Averil, and I'm not really a big fan of her name, but it's fine.
Yeah, I
also hate his name, honestly.
Honestly. But you know what? I could look past it.
Oh, yeah. Especially because we don't really get his name. Like, no one uses his name, so what do I care?
The other thing that kind of, it took me a while to get past, and it still kind of is not my favorite thing, I guess. I don't know how I feel about it, but he's called a sea witch. But in my head, like, witch is a feminized term.
Yeah.
And so that was a little weird.
I had that thought too, and I had to go through the exercise of like, okay, well then what's the alternative? A sea wizard? Like, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
Or like a warlock? Like, yeah, I had to get past too, because we don't really get his name that much. He is referred to as the Sea Witch, and that is also feminized in my head. I think it's technically a non-gender term, but like, I was raised on Harry Potter, so I got witches and wizards up in here.
I know, same. Yeah. Again, it's not a deal breaker for me in this book. It's worth calling out.
No. Oh, the other thing I wanted to point out that I do like, I usually like it in books, at the chapter starts, and maybe you're going to say this, but the chapter starts, we get like a little artistic name of who's speaking.
Yes.
Like the stylized, and I like that.
I like that a lot too, for two reasons. One, it was big. So like, I didn't miss it. Like, even in Their Vicious Darling, the Lost Boys books, I sometimes forgot to clock who was speaking, because it was just, It was the same size as the rest of the text, right? This is like, their names are stylized. It's large, right? So it's like the chapter number and then this big chunk of their name, but it's also materially different. So even if you don't read Sea Witch or Avril, you know instinctively by looking at the graphic that it's going to be male or female speaking.
Yeah, and that was really helpful, because that did mess me up a couple times in the Lost Boys series. So I'm like, wait, who? What?
Yeah, especially between like Cass and Bash, I was like, does it matter?
No. Well, when they would have, it doesn't matter. We're not talking about that book, but like, yeah, that would confuse me.
Anyway, back to this book. So the Sea Witch is watching a shipwreck that begins both this book and the movie, The Little Mermaid. And this shipwreck is brought about by a storm, and in that storm, it's having trouble keeping itself upright, but then it's struck by lightning, which catches the vessel on fire and makes it eventually sink to the bottom. The Sea Witch tells us that, quote, nothing can equal the ocean's fury or steal her prey, end quote. And so he expects everybody on the ship to die. But as he watches, he sees a little mermaid save one of the members of the ship and drag him to shore. The Sea Witch gets closer and sees a beautiful mermaid saving who he knows to be Kieran, the son of Perendal, who is the human king in this part of where they're at. And don't ask about other countries. It doesn't matter. We're in one and it's next to the sea. That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know. It's a mythical place.
Right. The Sea Witch knows this mermaid as well, and she's one of the daughters of Tarion, who is the current king of the sea. And as he watches, the Sea Witch is immediately enamored of the mermaid. He tells us that she has skin, quote, as white as lightning and blood red hair, which at first I was like, that's disconcerting. But the more I thought about it, it reminded me of Her name just went right out of my head. Oh, Poison Ivy. In the live action.
That's kind of what I was picturing, because it was disconcerting to me too at first. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, not a fan. But then I was like, yeah, no, that kind of rocks. Kind of rolls.
That's hot. I like that. Yeah.
That's hot.
That's hot.
So as he watches, a plan begins to form in his mind to use this mermaid to his own gain. He can tell that she is enamored of the human princeling. He bitterly tells us that though they are young and make a lovely pair, he is an old man. He's 200 years old and counting. He tells us, quote, "I am so tired of existing," end quote.
The writing that Rebecca Kenney, this is a terrible way to start a sentence. The way that Rebecca Kenney crafts the language that her characters use and talks about it is really beautiful. Like, there's some nice parallels between their narration. Like, his starts with something like, "I'm neither of the land or sea," and hers starts the same way. And just, I get his exhaustion, and I really like her writing.
I do too. I thought it was very beautiful. And like, we'll talk more about it in our ratings, but I wouldn't say that there are particular phrases that I could like pull out and like use as examples of like how poetic it is, but it's just very well written. Like, her characters really come to life, and like the way that she describes how they're feeling or thinking about whatever, even sex, is just very well done.
Yeah. You go, Rebecca Kenney.
You go, girl.
You go, Glen Coco.
So then we switch to Avril's point of view, and she's on the beach with the prince. We learn a little bit more about her through her internal monologue. We learn that she's rebellious and constantly goes against the wishes of her father and her many sisters. We learn that their underwater society is very rigid, and that she, as a princess and a female, is expected to be subservient and docile. One of the physical manifestations of this is like this permanent corset thing that's been crafted to her body. And this is apparently very commonplace for all women to cover their modesty, which I thought sounded barbaric as fuck.
Well, and later we get some more detail on how it's crafted. Like, it's glued to their body and takes like hours to put on, and are designed that you can't take it off yourself, because it's like, we get a lot of purity language, like you have to save yourself for your one true love, and only he can remove your corset, and your body's not your own.
Yeah. And you can't even like pleasure yourself, because that belongs to your fated mate, whatever, down the line. Like, you don't want to take away his pleasure. And it's like, oh, that's gross.
It's really gross.
Yeah. So as Avril looks at the prince, she tells us that she feels as though they are each other's soul echo, which is essentially this concept of fated mates. She thinks that she can feel that with him despite the fact that he's a human, and that's why she saved him. She was watching him on the boat, saw what was happening, and decided to intervene.
Which, there's a lot of scenes, especially in the first part of this book, that are very reminiscent of the Disney movie. And I just keep seeing her saying like, "But daddy, I love him." And it's like, you're 13 in the movie. Like, shut you don't know him. You don't know him.
You don't know him.
And I think that's what the Sea Witch basically says later. Like, okay, girl.
Okay. Some things you gotta learn for yourself, I guess.
She's not 13 in this book, but in The Little Mermaid, she's a child.
Yeah, no, she's fully 25 or 26 in this book, which I appreciate. Yeah. But it's also really funny that, like, she does, like, think that she's in love with this person. And it's so well, we'll get into it, but it's so well done how that just falls apart.
It's beautifully crafted.
Yeah. So as other people approach the beach looking for survivors, Avril hides herself and overhears these people call the man that she saved a prince. As they wake him up and ensure that he's okay, he starts to undress a bit out of the wet clothes. And it's here that we learn that Avril is very interested in human sex. She watches the prince and the others walk off the beach and just glimpses the prince turn back and catch a glimpse of her before she dives back into the water.
We get a lot of detail about how mermaids have sex versus humans, and I thought that was really interesting that the author crafted that much into this.
I did too, and
as soon as
she started talking about how mermaids have sex, I'm like, we're definitely getting a mermaid sex scene later.
Yep, which I respect, and I need that.
Yeah, I didn't know that I need that, but I need it, and I will tell you, she does make good on it.
Oh, hell yeah, I can't wait.
Once underwater, Avril realizes that she's in a part of the ocean that she usually avoids because it belongs to the Sea Witch. She ended up here because she was too focused on saving the prince, and now she's kind of got to go through this area to get back to her home. But as she's doing that, she's stopped by merfolk who look very different from the ones that she's used to seeing. One of these is a lionfish adjacent merfolk. The other is kind of like an electric eel. And the third is a deep sea fish with a lamp on its head.
Like the angler. I think it's an anglerfish.
Anglerfish. Thank you. I couldn't think of that when I was doing my notes. I was like, lamprey? That's not it.
That's not it. It took me a while too. I was like, I can see him so clearly.
Yeah. Anyway, they tell her that the sea witch wishes to see her. But before she can get an answer as to why or be taken with them, she flees, thinking that that is in her best interest. Unfortunately, though, there are hundreds of poisonous underwater fauna that sting her and capture her in their foliage, like they want to eat her. And
it's terrifying.
It's terrifying. The stinging toxins from these plants numb her and immobilize her. And they start to make her swell up. She knows that she's about to die, but the 3 merfolk who tried to speak to her save her and bring her to the sea witch. The sea witch saves her and reduces the swelling so that she can regain consciousness and begin to speak again. As she gets her bearings, Avril describes the sea witch as enormous and, quote, brutally muscled, which is kind of like the dude on the cover, I guess.
Yeah.
He's got tattoos on his forearms that are not described as tribal. Thank you very much. And so they weren't in my headcanon.
Me either.
He's got brown skin and octopus tentacles that are pale gray and mottled with blue, and his hair is an inky black or deep purple. Interestingly, she does note that he doesn't have any gills and obviously has the ability to breathe underwater, and so she's just immediately intrigued and also terrified because this person is supposed to be evil and powerful, and she's in trouble because she's with this person, but she's like, tell me more about how you do those things.
Yeah, she's definitely got that curiosity where she wants to know everything. I'm just going to rave about Rebecca Kenney for sure. But I like how we get the description of him where she neither says that he's attractive nor monstrous. She just tells us what it is, but we can, as readers, we can read between the lines and get you don't think he's ugly, even though she's not saying, oh my God, he's gorgeous, like she was saying with the prince.
Totally.
But you're not opposed to him.
Yeah, she's just oh, this is not exactly what I thought he would look like, but I'm not into it.
I'm not into it.
So the sea witch tells Avril that he knows that she's a princess, and despite that, he has a proposition for her. He offers to give Avril legs so she can go and be with her prince in exchange for doing something for him later on. Despite not knowing what his request will be, Avril agrees to this. The sea witch tells her that he must take an integral part of who she is in order for the spell to be maintained when she is further away from him, and he suggests her voice. But when she balks at that, he says, well, I could take a hand or your eyes, your hair, anything else. And she's like, you know what? Voice is fine. I'm all set.
That sounds great. Let's do it.
During their conversation, Avril makes an offensive comment about the 3 other merfolk that she encountered, and the sea witch tells her that she needs to broaden her perspective and not be as closed-minded as her father taught her to be. And he insinuates, they were outcast from your society just because they were different, and there's nothing wrong with being different. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah, don't talk about my friends that way.
Right. So most of this exchange is told from the sea witch's perspective, and he's fighting his attraction / magnetism to Avril the whole time. He too finds her intriguing because she's so defiant and different from what he expected of a daughter of Tarion. It's clear that this bargain for him means that he can take revenge on the King of the Sea, but we don't quite know how he intends to do that. But we'll find out. Don't worry.
We will. Don't worry. And it was... Well, we'll get to it in part 2, but I like the story time reveal. I didn't expect all of those details.
I didn't either. And I'll interject here that the story is so well done and the world building is so good, and it gives me just enough information to make it a rich story without leaving me asking too many questions. It's the perfect mix of this is how magic works. This is the boundary, and I'm not but wait a minute. None of that.
But what about that? No, it's so good.
So once they agree to the terms of the bargain, the Sea Witch gives them both shell necklaces that are glamored to look like fine gold. These tether both of them to each other, and the shell that the Sea Witch wears will eventually contain Avril's voice, much like it does in the movie. They then travel to the beach, where the Sea Witch will transform Avril into a human. He tells her how she must play a role to get into the prince's orbit of docile and pretty and vapid almost. He doesn't use those words, but he's essentially like, you can't be too opinionated, which will help because you don't have a voice.
Yeah, and men don't really want you to speak anyway. I did listen to the Ursula song, the OG one, during this part, because that's my favorite Disney song. And that's what Ursula says, is like, the men up there don't like a lot of talk. Like, you can use body language, and that's what he says too. Like, you can express a lot with your body. And also, he's going to be distracted by your body. So it's fine.
Use that to your advantage.
Yes.
So they agree on a backstory of the fact that she too was shipwrecked and that the trauma caused her to lose her voice. But she will be dressed in finery that's been tattered, and so people will assume that she is a noblewoman from somewhere else. Once they're on the beach, Avril is transformed, and the process is really painful. But this is the first, well, I guess technically the second instance of Avril experiencing something very painful and going through it like a champ, like without complaint. And every single time she does this, she tells us it's painful, but she doesn't say like, oh, woe is me in her internal monologue. And the Sea Witch clocks it, and he's like, that I was not expecting.
Yeah. And every time she curses or kind of fights back, he clocks all of those and really likes it. He likes her feisty side.
Definitely. So once she's human, Avril inspects her legs and in between her legs and asks all kinds of questions. And the Sea Witch is, I don't know how he didn't see this coming, but he's very uncomfortable and eventually tells her that she has 3 holes, one for pissing, one for shitting, and one for sex. Please stop asking questions.
And he is so painfully turned on watching her be naked.
Yep.
And she's just like fondling herself, trying to figure shit out. Purely
Totally.
scientific. And he's like, I need you to not do that in front of me.
Please don't. Please, I need some space. Especially when Avril starts inspecting her clit and touching it a few times. She's like, oh, that feels nice. What's that? And the Sea Witch is like, please stop doing this. I need a minute. And he literally goes behind a rock because he has an erection to deal with.
I love this whole scene because like he's back there trying to take care of himself and she's like, what are you doing? It can't take that long to transform. Like, what are you doing back there? What's going on? What is this? What's happening? But why?
Mom, mama, mom, mommy.
Mom, mommy, mama.
What? Anyway, he doesn't get to take care of his erection. Poor guy.
No.
And the reason he doesn't is because she's trying to get dressed, right? Because they're both naked and he's brought clothes for her, but she doesn't understand how any of these human clothes work. So he has to come back and help her dress.
Oh, and he has removed her corset.
Yes, he removed the permanent weird sea cement thing corset. Ugh.
Gross.
So then he instructs her on how to practice walking. As she does, the Sea Witch tells us internally, quote, she is infuriating yet intoxicating, naive yet sensual. Of course the puny prince will want her. How could he not? End quote. And I just love how immediately he's just like so fucked. Like he's just so enamored.
Yeah. Like, and he's trying so hard to convince himself that he's not. He's like, it's just because she's naked. Like anyone could do. It's fine.
I haven't had a good lay in a while. Like that's all this is.
I just got to go find a willing person.
And I'll feel much better. But I always love when he falls first and falls hard.
Oh, it's one of my favorite tropes.
Yeah. So just as the Sea Witch is about to go back into the sea, Avril asks him his name, but he refuses to tell her. Then he asks Avril to sing so he can take her voice, and she does so. Once Avril's alone on the beach, she waits for somebody to find her and eventually falls asleep. There's a couple of times when Avril's like waiting for something to happen and she just takes a nap.
It's so realistic because that would be me. Like,
that would be me too.
If I sit still too long, I'm asleep.
Yeah. So she's woken up because she's found by a group of people. And in that group, there is the prince, as well as his apothecary, a woman named Cass, and a personal advisor to the prince named Brixius.
That's how I read it when I looked at it closely, but I could not stop calling him Bryaxis.
I know. He's Bryaxis to me too.
Okay, good.
Sorry, Bryaxis was there first, dude.
Yeah, sorry.
So Cass is checking her over to make sure she's not injured, and the prince is immediately enamored, but the advisor, Brixius, is wary. The prince asks for her name, but when he can't understand what she's trying to say to him, he says that he'll just call her beautiful.
Gross.
Yeah.
This is my immediate inkling that he's going to be a piece of shit.
Yeah, because he's like, it doesn't matter what your name is. I'm just going to call you beautiful. I'm like, oh, okay. Yikes.
But we do get the nod because like she's trying to mouth it and he guesses Ariel. And again, I just like those little like, I see you Disney adults.
I do too. I like that too. So Avril is taken by the prince, but she can't help but reflect inwardly, quote, "There's a shade in my heart because I saw him laughing with those sailors on his ship, and some of them drowned, yet he doesn't seem to think of them at all. Perhaps he did not really know them. Or perhaps he's the kind of person who chooses to focus on the pleasant, hopeful side of life, not the sadness. What a truly wonderful man." And I just love how she, especially in the first couple of chapters when they're together, she keeps trying to convince herself that he's a good guy.
Yeah, she says aloud to herself, this is kind of weird, and then immediately defends it, which feels so realistic for someone this naive.
It's like, no, girl, listen to the thing that's in your gut that's saying this is a bad idea.
Exactly. And it's just, it's so fun to watch it fall apart.
So then we're back with the Sea Witch, and he had determined to go to the first town north and find the first willing woman he could to satisfy his lust. But he didn't end up doing that because he wants to make sure that Avril is safe. So he waited the entire time she was napping and waited until they found her, and then even watched them go back into the village to make sure that she was safe. We learn in his internal monologue that he and Brixius know each other somehow, to the point where the Sea Witch feels that he would be recognized if they saw each other.
Oops.
After the Sea Witch is satisfied that they're taking her with them back to the village, he goes back to his lair under the sea. There, one of his lackeys/friends meets him and asks him what he's doing. They have a long and lengthy conversation about the Sea Witch finally being close to his aims, but his friend/lackey questions whether the underlying motivations are right, and it's here that we learn that the Sea Witch's name is Zoltan. Eventually, the Sea Witch gets tired of this conversation and snaps back at his lackey saying, quote, "I enable you to have some measure of physical fulfillment to grace your otherwise esoteric mating bond, and I do it without bargain, without price, except that of friendship. The least you can do in exchange is allow me this chance at my own happiness," end quote. But the Sea Witch doesn't listen when his lackey tells him that happiness is not the same thing as vengeance.
Which is such a good point. And I also just really loved learning that his 3 lackeys/friends are in a throuple and they have to use his magic so they can have sex. Like, that just delighted me.
I know. That made me really happy too. And I love that, like, we'll get a little bit more of them. I don't have them in my notes very much, but we do see them interact with each other and they just seem like a delight. All 3 of them.
I know. It was just such a fun twist to give him friends/servants. I'm like, it was just so like whimsical and sexy. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a little sexy. There were a couple of times in this book where I was like, is it a wide choose? And I thought maybe the throuple would be a wide choose, but they're not. They're like fully into each other. And I also thought that maybe the prince and the Sea Witch would end up with Avril, but that's also not the case. It is fully like monogamous, heterosexual.
Which I'm okay with after we learn more about the prince, because he fucking sucks.
Dude, he's the worst. So we go back to Avril, who's settled in the village where the prince and his retinue are staying. She's attended by a couple of like worker women at the inn, and they like just tut over her. The prince has sent new clothes and has invited her to dine with him at the mayor's house later that evening, and so they're getting her ready. When she's ready, Brixius Brixius meets her and walks her to the mayor's house. On their walk, it's clear that he does not trust Avril, and he asks her questions like, where do you come from? Who's looking for you? But of course she can't answer, and it's clear that he doesn't quite believe her that she's mute. When they get to the mayor's house, Avril is enchanted by everything human and new, but she tries to keep her cool as she's introduced to people. She's like, okay, be cool. I can't be totally like new and give myself away here.
I gotta look like I know what people things are.
Exactly. But as she interacts with people and the prince, she can't help but notice some of the rude qualities that her prince exhibits. But she chalks them up to the trauma he must have experienced in the shipwreck. Oh, baby.
Sure. A reasonable explanation.
Sure. When they sit down for dinner, everyone looks to her and she doesn't know why. So she reaches to the sea witch through their like shell magic bond and asks for help. So the sea witch coaches her through dinner and can't help but be fascinated by her fixation on human food, especially soup. He's witness to a conversation where the mayor wishes to honor the dead in his shipwreck, but the prince suggests that they hold a dance instead because he doesn't want to be morbid. He also wants to play cards, and so they should have like a celebration where you can do both of those things. So the sea witch tells Avril that he will teach her those things later that night so she can be prepared to seduce the prince properly.
I was so pleased with how this played out because as this book was first unfolding, I was bummed because I was like, man, she's going to be on land. Like, how is she even going to be able to communicate with the sea witch? How are we going to build that relationship? Because I know where this is going. And they have this like telepathic communication that they can have. And he's also just nearby. So they get a lot of contact. And I was just so pleased that we got so much of that contact because I was worried at first. I was like, you're just going to send her on her way and then swoop in to save the day later? Because I'm not about that.
Yeah, I really liked that too. And I liked that we got a plausible reason for them to be able to communicate mentally through the bargain. Yes. But it wasn't like, because I was a little bit concerned that at the end it was going to be like, oh, because you're the soul echo, blah, blah. Like we can just do that now. It wasn't a part of the spell at all. And I'm like, no, thank you.
No. And I just, again, the way that she creates the magic system is so good. It all makes sense. I don't really have to suspend my disbelief besides just the fact that there's magic.
Right. Yeah. It makes sense.
There's also, we haven't really said, but part of how the magic works is she can like call to him, right? But also anytime she's thinking about him, he can see her, which is sometimes subconscious.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yep.
So at the end of this interaction, the sea witch suggests that the prince will probably want to kiss Avril at some point. And Avril has to admit that she's never done that before, and so she'll need coaching in that as well. And I gotta say, usually I'm not here for the I've never done this before, teach me how to Dougie kind of thing, but it's so good.
It's so good. I know, because I saw that in the trigger list where we get this like inexperienced virginity thing, and I was a little worried about that. But it's handled very well. And even here, I was like, yes, teach her how to kiss.
I know. I know. Yeah, it's handled very well. And it's also like the prince obviously cares because he's an asshole. But the sea witch doesn't. Like, he's not weird about it. He's not like, oh, I'm taking your virginity. I mean, he made that one-off comment when he was like, I can take something from you that means something. But like, spoilers, he takes your virginity. But like, he's not like gross about it.
Yeah, and the virginity thing doesn't there's this undercurrent that we've kind of talked about where like her culture is that like your virginity is saved for your one true mate or whatever. And I really like how that's kind of dismantled and how, sure, I mean, we all know virginity is a construct, right? Like your first time is a big deal, but virginity itself isn't like, it's not a gift for a dude.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and I like how that was handled because he's not a lech about it.
He's not a lech about it. And actually, it's worth pointing out here that the sea witch is actually very sex positive. Because, yeah. I mean, like, he's got that throuple friend, but he also is like, he's like pushing Avril to think about like, we'll see this soon, but like, you know, the prince has obviously tried it on with several people. I've tried it on with several people. We're obviously not dying, right? Like, if you want to do it, you should do it. Like, you're an adult. You can make your own decisions. Like, I really appreciated that he had that perspective without being like, and try it on with me. Like, it could be so easily gross.
Exactly. And it's so well handled. And he also brings up those, or prompts Avril to think of those things like, well, I bet all of the men in your father's kingdom don't have to save themselves. Like, you want to think about the patriarchy of that? Like, that's kind of unfair.
Yeah, that's kind of a fucked up double standard, huh?
Yeah. And she's like, you know what? It is.
So after dinner, the prince walks Avril to her room and gives her a present before they retire. Once she's in her room, she discovers that the present is a flimsy nightdress that's basically sheer. And so she puts it on. And a little bit later, the prince knocks on her door and she lets him in. It's clear that he wants to bed her because he's like ogling everything that he can see through this flimsy nightdress that he gave her. But she doesn't want to give that part of herself to him just yet, so makes that clear, and the prince leaves. Shortly thereafter, Avril sneaks out to meet the sea witch, still in the flimsy nightdress.
No thoughts.
No thoughts. So he meets her behind the inn with a horse and has to instruct her on how to ride in tandem with him. And they go they intend to go north to a place where they won't be recognized for their instruction. And there's a bit of forced proximity here that really works, but eventually they get off and ride north.
So this is the thing that bugged me, because she has had legs for all of 24 hours. And he's trying to tell her how to get on a horse with her new legs. And he says it's just like riding a dolphin. But unless she's sitting side saddle, it's not, because she still didn't have legs. She still doesn't know how to like part her legs to ride a dolphin.
Oh, yeah. I think that's just a writing mistake. Because I remember him saying that. And at the time I was like, yeah, it's just like riding a dolphin with your two legs. Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, but she's not side saddle. We know she's not. So I was like, and I don't know why that bothers me so much. And I think it was just a little piece of whimsy because they bring in a lot of like, here's the sea life. But it bugged me a lot, unnecessarily a lot. Like, it's not like riding a dolphin.
Like, it's keeping me up at night. Just take it out.
I don't know why. So I had to call it out.
Oh my gosh, that's really funny. Yeah, no, I think that's a little bit of a mistake. That's really funny. The thing that I liked about the scene is that she's like basically naked. Like, she's in this fucking getup, right? And the sea witch is just like, why is this so hard? Like, could you put some fucking clothes on, please? And he like intends to ride behind her, but then her butt is all up on his junk, and he's like, you have to sit behind me. Like, I cannot have you in front of me. Like, get back. They do that. She like gets up on the horse and he gets behind her and he realizes immediately, he's like, I can't fucking do this. And so they dismount and get back on the horse like that reverse way. And I'm just like, this is amazing.
Well, and she doesn't know, like, what, I don't remember if it's here, it doesn't really matter, but she clocks his erection but thinks it's like a weapon and says at some point, like, can you just take that weapon out of your pocket, it's poking me. And he's like, I don't think you want me to do that.
You really don't want me to do that.
He can't handle it, and I love it.
He's
Put
just
some
got
clothes
no
on.
chill. But I love that he's like committed to the bit, because he's like so horny and just like wants her, but like he's like, oh, I gotta fucking teach her how to do this thing so I can get my thing and we can be done with this. Like, God, it would be just so much easier if she wore some pants. Right. So they go to this pub up north, and when they get close, the sea witch gives Avril her voice back. The pub that they go to is called The Fiddle and the Albatross, which I thought was a very whimsical and cute name, and also a nod to the movie. Yes, I loved that so much. So the sea witch tells us that he comes to this place quite frequently and has a good relationship with the owner, and has actually put in place these wards for the owner that dispel glamours. So like, it works for him, but it also is nice because he can be there and not have to worry about somebody trying to get like close to him or be sneaky about it or whatever. Yeah.
He also gets her some clothes.
Yeah, he glamours some clothes, I think. Or he glamours them and then asks for clothes from the dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not just like in lingerie this whole time.
Yeah, that would be weird.
He even says, like, you can't wear this because people are going to think I paid for you.
Right. Well, and also, like, literally see-through. Like, it's lace and then it's raining when they were writing. And so, like, she's wet and it's white and it's see-through. And she's just like, this is my whole body.
This is my whole body.
Oh, my whole body.
Do you like it? You made it.
I also love how the sea witch is like, yeah, I did do that really well, huh?
Yeah.
Fuck.
I did that great. God damn it.
God damn
Did
it.
too good.
So once they get settled inside, the sea witch teaches Avril how to play cards. But he's letting her win, and that makes Avril really mad because she can tell. So she demands that he stop doing that so she can actually learn how to play cards. And this turn of events it's like so magnetic for the sea witch. He's like, yeah, no, you're right. That is a stupid way to make you learn cards. Sorry, what? Can we fuck now?
Can we just go back real quick? Just real quick.
Just real quick. So as they play, their discussion turns to the deal between them. We learn that the Sea Witch used to know the Human King and that the deal between them allows him to get revenge on the Sea King and the Human King at the same time. Avril asks if she'll have to hurt somebody if that's what the Sea Witch is going to ask her to do, but he promises her that she will not have to physically harm somebody.
Physically harm somebody.
Words are important.
Yes.
Next, he teaches her how to dance. And as he does, the talk turns to the idea of soulmates. The Sea Witch tells her that he doesn't believe in the concept. So Avril says basically like, yeah, that makes sense because you shut yourself away like under the sea in a cave surrounded by poisonous animals, etc. But he's like, would you stop saying that? And he pulls her off the dance floor into a nearby hall closet and tells her that anybody could be listening, right? She needs to be careful about what she says and where so they don't get found out. They're trying to hide the fact that they're merfolk, not advertise it.
And this just might have been my lack of reading because I am reading at the top of my lungs. But until like the part I just finished, I was unclear if humans knew about merfolk through most of this. And they do. But I was like, do they know? Do they know that mermaids exist?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit unclear. I kind of got the impression that yes, caveat, like it's clear that at some point in the past they did, right? And we'll learn more about that in part 2. But like, I think just as the king under the sea has kind of done some revisionist history and like forbidden his people to interact with humans, I think that's kind of similar to what's happened in the human kingdoms as well.
That's what I decided to, but I was it doesn't affect any of the way I feel about it, but I was a little confused.
Yeah. So they're in this closet, and as they talk, Avril correctly guesses that Brixius knows the Sea Witch and might recognize him. But rather than giving her a straight answer as to why that might be, the Sea Witch tells Avril that it's time for her last lesson, which is how to kiss.
Hell yeah. I was like, yes!
Yeah. And like, this is one of those teaching scenes that I'm usually not here for, but this one is so good because like they do that thing and the electricity between them is like so palpable. The way that Rebecca Kenney writes magnetism and attraction between these two is just so good.
It's so good. And I think part of what makes it not uncomfortable is there's none of that infantilization. Like I'm thinking about the second priest book where he's like literally teaching her and it's creepy, like he's talking to her like she's 12.
Yeah.
Where this we kind of have like he gives her a little bit of guidance, but mostly she just knows how to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a quick learner.
Yeah, and like they're both so into it.
Yeah, but he's not like, God, you could be my daughter. Like he's not like saying weird things like that.
No, not at all. And he's not coaching her in like a gross way either.
Mm-mm.
I'm going to call it so many small moments because I love it. Because she like licks her lips and he's like, yeah, do that for the prince. And so she does it like really dramatically. And he's like, no, that's too much.
Too much. Don't do it too much.
Don't do that.
Forget what I said.
Just kidding.
So they make out, but Avril at some point is just like, whoa, this is a lot, and like moves her head to the side, and that breaks the moment. They also realize that it's getting late and Avril needs to be back at the inn before she's missed, and so they leave. But because they have to ride back together, the Sea Witch demands that she ride behind him again, but she's like, I will literally fall off this horse because I'm so tired. Like, I need to ride in front. So he's like, fine, I'll be right back. And he goes around the side of the building to like literally jack off into the bushes. And so he doesn't have to like be hard the entire time. But what he doesn't know is that Avril followed him to watch because she was interested in what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, like, why do you need to go to the bushes? Let's just go home.
Let's just go home. What, like, I don't understand.
I love it.
So they get back to the inn and the Sea Witch sends Avril on her way after he's reclaimed her voice. Once Avril gets back to her room, though she was tired on the ride back, she's wide awake on her own. And she's also horny. So she tries to make herself orgasm, but she can't. She first thinks about the prince, thinking that that will help, but then her thoughts quickly drift to the Sea Witch and their kiss in the supply closet? Question mark? But she can't quite get the rhythm right, and she's also worried that thinking about the Sea Witch might also have like called him to like see her doing what she's doing, and so she eventually gives up and falls asleep.
And it did call him.
And it did.
And she's like, I didn't call to him. I was just thinking about him. He probably doesn't know.
He's probably asleep anyway, right, guys?
Right, guys? He's got to be tired. Long day.
Long day. So the next day, Avril sees the prince around lunchtime, and they share a meal together and play cards. The prince talks about how, along with his men, there were several really expensive horses that were lost in the shipwreck. And Avril tells us internally, quote, the loss of the animals is tragic, but I wish he would show some of the same grief over his lost men, end quote.
Yeah, this author just crafts him. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think it's because the author creates this prince to be like such a piece of shit, but he's just a guy. Like, he is a piece of shit, but he's not like abusive. He's not cruel. Like, he's just a selfish fuckboy, and it just creates such a good villain without really doing a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, he does definitely get worse in the second half, but especially in part one, like, he is just a guy. Like, hit him with your car. He's just a fuckboy. Yeah,
he's just annoying. Like, I've known this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, too many of these guys.
Yep.
So when they play cards and Avril wins, the prince becomes increasingly unhappy. So Avril calls on the Sea Witch for advice, and the Sea Witch tells her to let the prince win. Both of them watch as, predictably, the prince's mood improves as Avril lets him win. Avril can't help but be bitter about that and continue the conversation with the Sea Witch. As they talk, he reveals to her that he will be at the celebration later that evening, and of course, that celebration is a masquerade. It's also in this conversation that the Sea Witch tells her that he saw what she did the night before. Whoops.
Whoopsie.
So after they're done playing cards and eating, the prince is very drunk and invites Avril up to his bedchamber. Once there, he tries to have sex with her, and Avril tries her best to be into it, but before the deed is done, she admits to herself that she doesn't want to do it. Fortunately, before she either has to fight off the prince or be raped, he passes out drunk. Woof.
He's a big old drunkard. Real classy.
Yeah. So Avril goes back to her room and cries, not fully understanding why. That evening, when the prince collects her to go to the masquerade, he apologizes for his behavior. When she gives him a sympathetic look and nod, he tells her, quote, "You don't know what a relief that is. After all the women I've been with during my travels, all the ones who have gossiped about me, told lies, ruined my marriage prospects, to finally have someone who cannot betray me. It's a wonderful thing." End quote.
Ugh.
Yeah. And this is really one of the first concrete times she's like, all the women? Like, why the fuck am I saving myself for anybody if it's clear that you're not?
Yeah, and that you haven't and have no qualms about that.
Right. But Avril is determined to enjoy herself that night and think the best of her prince, and so they go to the celebration and they dance. But at some point during the night, she ends up dancing with the Sea Witch. And this is intentional on his part because he wants the prince to be jealous, and that works. Midway through the dance, the prince comes up and yanks Avril back from the Sea Witch and drags her off the dance floor. We learn later that all he did was like drag her to a table so he could continue drinking and complaining, and she was like, cool, this is so fun.
Yeah, like, why are we here?
The Sea Witch is later accosted by the prince's guards and taken away from the celebration and beaten. He lets this happen because he wants the prince to think that he's been given a victory. But as he lies there after the guards have left in the mud, Avril finds him and is very angry. When he gives her voice back, she berates him. He doesn't really fully understand why at first, but when she finds out that he's angry that he's hurt, he tells her, look, I can easily heal. It's not a big deal.
Like, I'd let this happen.
And she's like, oh, fine, I guess. Good.
Cool. Fine. You do that then.
Yeah. So they talk about what she did the night before, and she asks whether he would be down for more instruction on how to elicit pleasure in a human form. And she also asks if it's wrong for her to want that, and he tells her, like, it's all in your perspective, right? He insinuates that the religion that her father thrust upon her and the rest of the merfolk might not be the only way to think about things, and that if Avril ever wanted to explore the way her human body could feel, then all she has to do is meet him on the beach, where he first changed her into a human, and he will show her.
I love how much he, like, just phrases those things. Like, it's up to you. Like, there's other ways to think about it. Maybe reconsider how you've been raised. But, like, he's not telling her, no, your father's stupid and your religion's wrong. He's just saying, like, listen, it depends. It's up to you.
I really like that, too.
And you have the freedom to decide. Yeah.
Because it's not like, you know, he has his own opinions about her father, but he's not thrusting those opinions on her.
No, he's not trying to turn her against her own dad.
Right.
Not really.
So Avril goes back to the party and the Sea Witch goes back to his lair to heal. When he does, one of his lackeys/friends tells him that Avril's father is determined to find Avril and will conduct a human sacrifice in order to do so. His friend/lackey advises the Sea Witch to at least tell Avril what her father is up to, but the Sea Witch refuses because it says it's not their business. King Tyrion can do whatever the fuck he wants, and that's on him.
Not my problem if he wants to kill an innocent person.
Cool.
Cool.
So later that night, he goes to the beach to see if Avril will take him up on his offer. And she does. So he takes her to a secluded alcove, and there's a great tentacle scene that ensues.
It's such a good scene. Like, it's better than it has any right to be.
Totally. Especially because, like, they have this deal where, like, she wants to experience the pleasure and he wants to give it to her, but neither of them really want to admit that they're okay with the other actively participating. So the Sea Witch doesn't touch her with his hands or kiss her or even speak to her, and, like, doesn't give her voice back. So this is, like, only for her and only with his, like, octopus tentacles. And when it's over, he even tells her, quote, "It's over. We will not speak of it again. It does not count."
And he kept himself, like, kind of shielded with magic, so, like, she couldn't even really see him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I mean, anything that you want in a tentacle scene, I was here.
It was really hot. It was really hot.
We haven't said this in a while, but definitely one-handed reading book club.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which is surprising for me how hot the scene was, considering, like, they didn't communicate. And we usually really like the communication, but there's no communication. But we know that they want it. It's just, ugh.
Yeah. They don't even communicate, like, mind to mind, which I thought was interesting. They're just, like, reading well, he's really reading her body language, which I think is why it works, because he's so attenuated to what she wants and how, like, she's feeling.
Yeah, and how to make her feel.
Mm-hmm. So at breakfast, okay, wait, sorry. Before we get to the other thing, the other thing that I like this was like, this is technically her first orgasm and he's not creepy about it. Like he just does it for her. Like he doesn't even, it never comes up. He doesn't even think about it in his brain hole.
No, and I love that because again, like there's so many things that could be creepy. He could be like, look what I gave to you. Look what I can do for you that no one else can.
Right.
Like, it's the closest he gets to that, say something like she deserves to feel pleasure that I don't think her prince can give her. But it's still not about him. It's just like she deserves this.
Right. Exactly.
It's yeah.
It's so
good because he's not creepy and it could be so gross and it's not gross.
So at breakfast the next day, the prince summons Avril for breakfast and is just generally horrible. He asks Avril if she can write, and when he discovers that whatever she can write, he can't understand, he's even more delighted that they can't communicate. He then tells her that he's leaving and he intends to take her with him back to the summer palace to meet his father. He tells her, quote, most women are just insufferable, don't you think? The incessant chatter about inane topics drives me batty, to be honest. But you don't annoy me much at all, and I think you'll annoy me even less once we get a little bit better acquainted, end quote.
Wink, wink.
Ugh. Ugh.
He's
Vomit.
so gross.
So gross.
And really what he's saying, dear listener, is I'm a piece of shit and I do shitty things and you can't tell anyone and I like that.
Right. And she at least, she doesn't quite put together that like that's explicitly what he's saying, but she does clock that he's like so icky and does not like the way that he talks to her.
Exactly.
So they leave within the hour, and of course Avril tells the Sea Witch and is secretly delighted when she finds out that he's also going to follow them.
Yeah, she is.
The Sea Witch tells her to continue to pretend to be dazzled and intrigued by the prince so that they can seal their deal. Avril tells the Sea Witch that the king, Kieran's father, was recently the victim of an assassination attempt through poison, but that he's recovered. The Sea Witch finds that interesting, and Avril tells us internally that she's no longer sure that she could be happy being a wife to this prince.
Good.
To that end, on their journey, the prince keeps trying to get Avril to feel him up or like suck his dick, but she pretends to not understand, and she says something to the effect of like, well, if he's not going to try to understand me, then I'm not going to try to understand him.
And I love that power play. Like, no, I don't want to do it anyway, and I'm sorry, I'm just a dumb little girl.
The whole time, too, the Sea Witch is following them at a safe distance, telling himself that it's because he wants to ensure the safety of his bargain. To which I say, sure, Jan.
That's the thing.
That's the one. So when Avril and the prince arrive in the summer palace, they're met by a cast of characters, including the apothecary who originally made sure that Avril was not dead, Cass. The prince then goes with Cass to see his father, but after a while, Avril is summoned, and she and the prince go to the room of the king. This is when the prince asks his father for his blessing to marry Avril, and the king is really too ill from that recent assassination attempt to really give anything more than a grunt, but the prince takes that as a blessing, and their engagement is later formalized at dinner.
You've known each other for 3 days.
Right? So at dinner, at some point the prince excuses himself and leaves Avril on her own, and he's gone for a while, so she gets curious and goes to look for him. She finds him in a secluded alcove getting sucked off by Cass. As she's watching, she overhears the two of them talk about a plan and how Avril is perfect for it, but Avril is so horrified by what she's witnessing that she leaves immediately before she can hear anymore.
Ugh, gross.
So this was vile for so many reasons, but the thing that I liked about this experience was that rather than sending her into a pit of despair, it really ignited her rage, and she's determined more than ever to finish the deal with the Sea Witch and get what she wants, which is ultimately freedom.
Yeah, and even after their engagement is solidified, she makes some great line like, I accept the promise, a promise I fully intend to break. Like, I'm gonna destroy you, little princeling.
Yep. We could have been good together, but you just had to be a dick about it.
So, and I do like that she doesn't just, like you said, fall into a pit of despair. She's like, okay, well, I have learned a lot here, and let's go.
Yeah, let's go. It's on. So that night, she demands to see the Sea Witch, and he tells her to meet him at a pub in the city. This particular pub has unlimited soup, on the menu, and Avril is delighted. And I just love that he remembered that she liked soup. And I know this sounds like the bare minimum, but it really is one of the ways that we see and are shown him being considerate and like wanting to make her happy.
Yeah, not for his own gain, but just because he doesn't have to make her happy. That's not part of the bargain. Like, he didn't have to bring her here.
No.
And it's just, the soup thing was so cute.
I know. So as they eat, Avril asks about the source of the sea witch's magic, and we learn that it's something that he was born with, but he's also accumulated more of it, and others can do that too if they're taught correctly. So Avril asks him to teach her, and he initially refuses, but she offers, well, you know, what if I promise to never use it against you? And he's like, tempting. But before he can give a true answer, she asks whether he'll teach her anything else. And the sea witch asks whether she wants to learn sexual skills in order to keep the prince's attention. And she says, maybe, but maybe it's just that it looks like a lot of fun, but that either way she wants to try it with him. So they go outside to a secluded alley and they start learning.
This whole leading up to the scene is really great because we start to see more of his vulnerability and his fears.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we start with like a really great teach me how to blowjob scene, and then after that switches to like her first like oral orgasm scene. But before Avril goes down on the sea witch, he tells her, quote, only if you want this, and not because of him, Avril. I can't. And she interrupts him and says, quote, maybe a little because of him, but mostly because of you.
That was just really swoony to me for some reason.
I know. Like, their interaction is just so good.
It's so good. He's just like, please don't do this just because you want to get back at him.
Right. Because he desperately wants to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they're both sated, they go back inside and enjoy a little bit more soup. And it's then that Avril tells the sea witch that she and the prince are engaged. Then the sea witch tells her what she must do, but we don't quite find out what that is yet. Mm-mm. So we cut to Avril and the prince the next day, and they are going to the royal vault where she can pick out her first crown jewels as his betrothed. As they go down into the depths of the palace, the prince talks about how it's so unfortunate that power is wasted on old men. He tells her that he's seen far too many old regents hang on to life and power while their young heirs waste away. He says that he would make a good king, and he asks Avril if she agrees, and of course, she pretends to do so.
Yep. The whole time being like, you're gross and I hate you.
Yeah. Once they're at the vault, the prince insists that they go inside, just the two of them. And once they're in there, it's clear that the prince wants to fuck Avril to spite his father and his ancestors, but instead she gives him a handy and he comes all over some priceless piece of like jewelry. And it's unfortunate because the sea witch is watching this entire time because he's helping Avril look for something. And before Avril does this, she's like, you can look away if you want, but just a heads up. You won't
I'm going to do
this.
something you're not going to like.
Yeah. So after the prince is distracted, the sea witch directs Avril to a little fork, a little golden like hors d'oeuvre fork, and she steals it. And the prince doesn't notice. No one ever is the wiser. The sea witch asks her to bring it to him later that evening, but she's guarded pretty heavily ever since she snuck out the other night to find him. So they have to try to meet in 2 days when there's a festival to celebrate their engagement. The sea witch makes it clear that he's eager to close their agreement, and Avril asks how long she'll have to decide whether she wants to return to the sea or to stay human. The sea witch doesn't tell Avril that she doesn't have a choice. Instead, he lies and tells Avril that he can give her 1 extra day. The sea witch admits internally to us that the idea of hurting Avril and causing her pain causes him agony, but he lies to himself saying that there's nothing that can be done because it is the price of magic. And that, gentle reader, is where we're going to end part 1.
It's so good. I want to know what happens. I know where it's going to end. Like, I get it. But there's a lot of things that I want to see fall into place.
Yeah.
And
it's real satisfying, gotta say.
Oh my God. Okay, I can't wait.
All right, friends, we did it. Those are our thoughts on part 1 of Sea Witch by Rebecca F Kenney. Let us know what you thought on the socials. You can find us on TikTok and Goodreads at Spice Traders Pod. And as always, if you like our content and want more, consider becoming a patron. We would really appreciate it. And if you really, really like us, drop us a review wherever you listen. But until next time, we'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.